the fiber's length extending over the end. This extra length is folded over and glued down onto the opposite side, or belly, of the bow. With great care, the fibers are straightened and made parallel. A ring of sinew is now added, just below the knock, about 1 inch below the tip end. The ring is made by wrapping the sinew around several times. An obsidian flake is used to neatly trim the sinews. A flint knife could also be used in place of this volcanic glass. This reinforcement strengthens the knock. The sinew ring forms a holding ridge to help prevent the bowstring from splitting the knock or slipping down toward the limb when strung. When the bow is completely dry and properly seasoned, it is ready to be decorated. Using sturgeon glue as flux and ground pigments for color, paint may be prepared in advance. Heat restores it to a liquid. Homer uses red and black paint from the small steatite paint bowls. The bow is painted only on the sinew backing. He prefers to apply the color with the sharp edge of a thin wooden spatula. Tiny brushes were also made by chewing the ends of wooden splinters until the frayed fibers formed a brush. Homer has chosen a traditional design, using simple geometric patterns which carry no special significance. With reinforced bows such as this, Homer's ancestors killed deer, bear, elk, and other game. With these same bows and flint-tipped arrows, they also defended their homes from raids by other tribes. Upon killing this red-tailed hawk, Homer has gathered the last of the materials and tools he needs for arrow making. Equisetum will again serve as sandpaper. There is an ample supply of sinew, some raw, and some which has been worked and is ready to use for arrow making. Stone arrowheads have also been chipped in advance. A number of soapstone bowls are needed to hold the glue and paint. Homer splits a seasoned limb of mock orange with a hardwood wedge and stone maul. He could use other traditional materials for arrow shafts, such as hollow native cane or solid woods like the slender shaft of the snowberry. The limb has been quartered to yield 4 shafts. They are now rounded with the stone rasp. Equisetum is again the natural sandpaper used to smoothly finish the surface. For accurate shooting, the shaft must be absolutely straight. To check this, Homer sights along the shaft and corrects any unevenness with an arrow straightener. After the ends have been notched, a stone arrowhead is fitted into this forenotch. Homer takes a long strand of sinew, softens the strand by moistening it in his mouth, and begins binding the arrowhead into this notch. Still more sinew is bound around the notched tip of the shaft. Homer applies sturgeon glue to seal the binding. Pitch was sometimes used and has the advantage of being waterproof. The feathers must be exactly the right size, neither too large nor too small. The arrow's true flight depends upon the precision of its feathering. Certain feathers of the red-tailed hawk make excellent arrow feathers. The two halves of the feather are separated very carefully. This delicate operation is done by splitting down the quill from its outer tip. Each half feather is then trimmed with an obsidian knife. At both ends, the plumules are cut away from the midribs, leaving an extension of the quill for binding. Moistened sinew is again used for binding. The first feather is laid in position, and the sinew is wound around once or twice to hold it. One by one, the second and third feathers are added and bound at equal intervals around the shaft. Many more windings of the sinew complete the binding of the feathers at both top and bottom. Homer smooths the plumules as he checks to see that the feathers are perfectly parallel to the shaft and equally spaced. Any further trimming may be done at this time. Sturgeon glue is again applied to secure and size these bindings. This arrow is made to shoot straight. To make an arrow that will revolve in flight, the feathers would be bound into a spiral pattern, according to the degree of revolution desired. The arrow is always painted with some traditional design. Red pigment has been made by grinding a reddish rock with mortar and pestle. Homer adds this dry color to the red paint he previously made. The pulverized color must be thoroughly mixed with the sturgeon glue to make this thick brick red paint. An umber paint has also been made from ground rock. The black has been prepared by mixing the glue with fine soot made by burning a certain species of pitch pine. With the sharp-edged spatulas, Homer applies his design. The design was often intended to signify individual or group ownership. Many different types of arrows were made, each for its own purpose. Bird arrows had blunt tips. Arrows with sharp wood foreshafts hardened with fire, and arrows with foreshafts holding stone points were used for animal hunting. They were carried in a quiver made from a cased mammal skin, such as that of the fox, coyote, or land otter. Homer will later make a quiver from this cased otter skin. The arrow Homer made has great penetrating ability. Its penetration, however, is largely dependent upon the power of the bow. In handling the arrow, Homer uses the primary release. He shoots the bow in the traditional horizontal manner he learned as a child. Until a century ago, these Indians made great use of the sinew-backed bow and its arrow. We can only estimate how greatly they relied upon this weapon in their hunting and for the defense of their homes. But there is no doubt that it was of major importance.